11 years ago today, the 16th of February 2003, solemn Sunday Mass in the extraordinary form of the Roman Rite was sung in this church of St Aloysius, Caulfield, for the first time since the post-conciliar changes. It was then, as it is today, Septuagesima Sunday. This was an important development in the full-time chaplaincy dedicated to those of the faithful attached to the traditional liturgy, a chaplaincy that had commenced in Melbourne at the instance of then Archbishop George Pell early in the year 2000. Although the Old Mass has rightly continued to be celebrated at various locations throughout the Archdiocese, especially since the promulgation of Summorum Pontificum, it's been tremendously important for us to have a central, stable location, especially for the celebration of solemn liturgies and the conduct of much of the day-to-day work of the apostolate. The arrival of the apostolate and the chaplaincy at Caulfield was a milestone. The residence for 2 priests was purchased in Cromwell Street. As most of you know, we're still paying off the mortgage, and Father McDaniels and I took up residence early in January 2004. Only some years later did we obtain access to the entirety of the presbytery next to the church. This property, Maryvale, provides a residence for Father Marshall and guest accommodation, as well as housing our administration and providing facilities for classes, meetings, choir practices and social functions. The use of the church and of Maryvale has been governed by an agreement between the chaplaincy and the local parish of Glenhuntly Caulfield, which holds title to the property. Thanks be to God, our situation as St Aloysius has enabled the apostolate to grow over the last decade. However, ultimate questions concerning stability and other related issues remained unresolved. As some of you are aware, I think especially of members of our Pastoral Council and Finance Committee, we've been seeking a definitive solution to these matters for some time. Accordingly, I'm delighted to announce that this last Tuesday, the feast of Our Lady of Lourdes, His Grace Archbishop Hart, having considered our petitions and sought the advice of his Council of Priests and the Archdiocesan Consultors, graciously consented to elevate the Newman community to the status of a full personal parish, in accordance with Canon 518 and Article 10 of Summorum Pontificum. How is this different from our existing situation? For 14 years, we've had a full-time chaplaincy dedicated to the faithful attached to the traditional rites. This chaplaincy, however, has been entirely dependent on the goodwill of the Archbishop of the time and upon the goodwill of the priests within whose parishes we've operated. There's been no guarantee in law, for instance, of the right of the faithful to have their own pastors, although, of course, in practice, this has been the case. Similarly, from a legal point of view, we've merely been guests here at St Aloysius. What is a parish? Canon 515 of the Code of Canon Law tells us that a parish is a certain community of Christ's faithful, stably established within a particular church, whose pastoral care, under the authority of the diocesan bishop, is entrusted to a parish priest as its proper pastor. We go on to discover in Canon 518 that, as a general rule, a parish is to be territorial. That is, it is to embrace all Christ's faithful of a given territory. Where it is useful, however, personal parishes are to be established, determined by reason of the right, language, or nationality of Christ's faithful of a certain territory, or on some other basis. In Article 10 of Summorum Pontificum, our former Holy Father, Pope Benedict XVI, encouraged diocesan bishops to establish personal parishes under this canon, precisely for those Catholics who are attached to the extraordinary form of the Roman Rite. And this is what His Grace, Archbishop Hart, has determined to do. I anticipate that Blessed John Henry Newman will continue as our patron. I've been authorised today by His Grace to announce viva voce the establishment of the parish. However, until the formal decree of establishment is promulgated, nothing will appear in our bulletin or on our website. So I ask you please to respect this slight delay and not to publish anything in writing or in the various social media of the internet. It won't do us any harm to have a little bit more mystery for a few weeks. What are some of the implications of our new status? Firstly, it will be necessary formally to enrol or register in the personal parish as a member. Mere regular attendance at one of our masses is not sufficient to constitute membership of the parish. And this is a good thing because it means we have to show our commitment. More details regarding this will be forthcoming with the decree of establishment. Secondly, although as a non-territorial personal parish, we are free to operate anywhere within the Archdiocese, St Aloysius here at Caulfield will continue to operate as our home base. Our existing agreement with the local parish of Glenhuntly Caulfield will be reviewed as necessary and given a more formal character as a charter between two equal entities, two parishes, and be ratified by the Archbishop. This is important to assure our permanence here at St Aloysius. From the time of our establishment, we will cease to use the local parish registers. As a chaplaincy, we were not entitled to separate baptismal, confirmation and marriage registers, and will begin to use our own. The parish will be a proper juridical person under canon law with its own seal. In contrast to the chaplaincy which existed at the good pleasure of the Archbishop, the parish, once established, is a permanent entity. And that's a statement that our community is fully a part of the Church, fully a part of the Archdiocese of Melbourne, and that we're here to stay. Among other things, it means that future archbishops are obliged to provide a parish priest and such other assistant clergy as are necessary. And the parish priest has obligations to his people, including offering Mass every Sunday and holy day of obligation for their needs and intentions. On another occasion, I will explore more fully the precise obligations of the parish priest. But here I would highlight that Canon 528 states, among other things, that the parish priest is to have a special care for the Catholic education of children and young people. It would be good to commence a conversation soon about how this might best be accomplished for the members of our parish. Although there may be few immediate visible changes, it would be difficult to exaggerate the importance for our community of this gift of a parish. It's easily the most significant event thus far in the life of Melbourne's traditional Catholic community. But we wouldn't have arrived at this moment were it not for the faithful witness, the work and prayer of both priests and laity over many decades. The traditional Mass community of Melbourne is in fact unique in Australia, inasmuch as it's existed in a constant and recognisable form from the very beginning of the post-conciliar changes. To a great extent, this continuity was due to the foresight and courage of the legendary Father James Opie, at that time parish priest of Our Lady of Lourdes Parish, Armidale, who even throughout his long retirement kept up the regular celebration of the traditional Mass. And I was rather touched and delighted that this decision came down on the very feast day of Our Lady of Lourdes. I also recall with gratitude and affection the persons and work of Father Philip Astley and Ian Faulkner, both of the Society of Jesus. May they all rest in peace. I wish to acknowledge with gratitude as well the great work throughout the years of Monsignor Jerry Diamond, Father John Walsh, Father Chris Dowd, Father John Rizzo, and other clergy. I pay tribute to all of the lay faithful, living and dead, who have remained loyal both to the traditional Mass and to the Church, for these must never be separated, whatever the difficulty. I especially wish to thank the members of our Pastoral Council and Finance Committee for their hard work and tenacity, and those families and individuals who have contributed in a particular way to our arrival at this moment. May I pay a special tribute to my long-standing colleague, a very dear friend, Father John McDaniels. Together, we've been through both joys and hardships and everything in between since meeting in seminary in 1995. Father McDaniel's friendship, his level-headedness, perspective and sage counsel, and above all his prayers, have been of the most immense support to me over the years, as we've had to navigate a sometimes turbulent passage. I also wish to thank Father Colin Marshall for his goodness and generosity in joining us some 3 years ago, and for his continued hard work. And in fact, I have to thank Father Marshall for taking my place in Hobart this Sunday. I was due to go down there to help with the expansion of the traditional community down there, and when this matter came up I had to stay, so my thanks to Father in his absence for taking my place in Hobart. We are all deeply indebted to His Grace, Archbishop Hart, for his great kindness, courage and foresight in seeing his way forward to granting us a parish. Nor must we forget the thanks that are due to his Lordship, Bishop Peter Elliott, who has worked tirelessly on our behalf for some time to bring us to this point. Might I suggest in the weeks ahead that families and individuals write their own letters of gratitude to His Grace and to his Lordship. I expect there will also be an opportunity to express our gratitude in person to both Archbishop Hart and Bishop Elliott on the occasion of my installation as parish priest. Above all, let us give thanks to our patron, Blessed John Henry Newman, to our Heavenly Mother, St Mary, Help of Christians, and to Almighty God for bestowing upon our community this wonderful grace. I invite you to join in the Te Deum at the end of this Mass of Thanksgiving and to gather afterwards outside for an appropriate celebration. I'll also at that time be very pleased to take any questions. Thank you.